Hello there. You're watching All 24 News, World News program with me, Karim Zachary, and up next are the top stories. In Gaza, ceasefire violations continue as casualties rise. Gaza is one of the world's most dangerous spots for aid workers and journalists, with tensions growing in the West Bank. Also in our news, in Sudan, mass graves discovered in Khartoum prisons. Officials say al-Fashir's recapture is imminent, and al-Burhan rejects parallel sovereignty and blames external actors for prolonging the conflict. Next, on the war in Ukraine, Moscow and Kiev exchange heavy shelling on energy infrastructure. Russia calls Western forces legitimate targets, while Zelensky asks for more air defenses. And later on in the U.S., protests erupt after the fatal shooting of migrant in Minneapolis. Trump blames state leaders, heightening tensions. The details shortly. Welcome back to the details. It's great to have you with us tonight. First off in our news, 3 Palestinians were killed and several others injured after Zionist forces carried out heavy airstrikes across the Gaza Strip on Sunday, in yet another violation of the ceasefire. The attacks hit the eastern neighborhoods of Gaza City and areas near Jabalia camp, with one more casualty in Khan Yunis. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, the toll in just 24 hours reached 3 dead and 8 wounded, bringing the overall number since the start of the war to more than 71,600 dead and over 171,000 injured. In the same context, more than 5,000 children in Gaza are facing severe health conditions and urgently need medical evacuation for treatment abroad, according to Mohammed Abu Aisha, director of the Medical Relief Association. Speaking on Sunday, he said daily child deaths continue due to disease and lack of treatment, while the blockade prevents enough food, medicine, and medical supplies from reaching the territory. And on a similar note, UNRWA Commissioner General Philippe Lazzarini said over 600,000 children in Gaza have been denied access to formal education for more than 2 years. In a post on X on Saturday, he added that only 65,000 children attend UNRWA schools, while another 300,000 rely on online learning. Lazzarini warned that children in Gaza are living with deep trauma caused by the ongoing genocidal war. UNRWA Commissioner General Philippe Lazzarini also added that Gaza is now considered the world's most dangerous place for journalists and humanitarian workers, noting that over 230 journalists have been killed in the territory. Speaking on Sunday, he warned that blocking journalists from entering Gaza fuels misinformation and extremist narratives, undermining humanitarian reporting, and strips Palestinians of their humanity. As for daily life in Gaza, wood has become both a vital resource and a luxury. With severe shortages of electricity and gas, residents are forced to rely on firewood to cook and stay warm during the long winter months, sometimes risking their own lives in the process. Here's Zahra Farjani with the report.
A mountain of tree trunks chopped into firewood using axes or electric saws, then sold in local markets. Firewood that is essential for the survival of Gazans in the middle of winter. In Gaza, being able to keep warm and cook food has become an unaffordable luxury for many.
People don't have gas to cook. They buy up to 4 kilos of food, just enough for their daily household needs. We buy the wood in large pieces and cut it down. People are risking their lives just to get firewood. We heard that a friend has become a martyr because he went out to collect wood to feed his family.
A After more than 2 years of genocide, the Palestinian enclave has been reduced to uninhabitable ruins. Nothing has been spared by Zionist brutality, not even the flora. Firewood has therefore become a highly sought after and extremely scary commodity. With no gas supply and no electricity, the entire enclave now depends on firewood for survival.
This firewood is very hard to find. We hope life can return to normal and that firewood will become available again. We want gas distributors to come and refill the cylinders so things can go back to how they were. We want all aspects of life to improve.
Even charitable kitchens are struggling to provide hot meals for Gaza's residents. Staff work tirelessly every day to secure enough firewood to prepare food. On average, they need between 300 and 500 kilograms of wood per day to meet the demand.
Finding firewood has become extremely difficult. We struggle to obtain every small quantity to continue cooking and distributing meals to people in need. We need between 300 and 1,500 kilos every day.
With firewood in short supply, many Gazans risk their lives daily by crossing the yellow line drawn by the Zionist occupation to collect a few pieces of wood. The cold has already claimed several lives in Gaza. At least 9 children have died of hypothermia this winter.
And in occupied Palestine, a Palestinian man was killed by occupation forces in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank on Sunday. According to the Palestinian news agency, the victim was chased and shot north of the city. Meanwhile, Zionist forces carried out a wide arrest and raid campaign across several West Bank towns, detaining 17 Palestinians, including children and former prisoners, in areas including Tulkarm, Al-Khalil, and Jenin. And in reaction to what's happening in Palestine, thousands took to the streets of Copenhagen on Saturday to protest Zionist violations in Gaza, despite the so-called ceasefire in place since October 10th. Demonstrators called on their government to protect civilians and take serious action on the humanitarian crisis, waving Palestinian flags and chanting slogans in support of Palestine. Similarly, thousands of pro-Palestine activists took to the streets of Cork, Ireland on Saturday, calling for a full ban on the Zionist entity. Protesters demanded sanctions, a law banning imports from the occupied Palestinian territories, and an end to using Shannon Airport as a transit point for Zionist weapons, saying such support amounts to direct complicity in the genocidal war against Palestinians.
The new company that is supporting ensuring the Israeli ships is Irish. North Standard EU ignored Amnesty International recommendations and warnings to not insure the Zionist occupation ships, and they still did it anyway. So we still have battles to fight. But we were never asking for ceasefire. We were asking for freedom. We were asking for liberation.
There is no ceasefire. That is the painful truth. And it's hard to say those words. There is no ceasefire. This week, at least 11 Palestinians, including 2 children and 3 journalists, were killed in Israeli attacks on Gaza.
Elsewhere in the Middle East, 2 Palestinian civilians, or Lebanese civilians, were killed and 5 others injured on Sunday evening in Zionist airstrikes targeting southern Lebanon. The Lebanese Health Ministry said a vehicle was hit on the road between Kharbat Salim and Kfar Dunin in the Bint Jbeil district, leaving 2 dead and 5 others seriously wounded. And in Syria, the Defense Ministry announced a 15-day extension of the ceasefire with a group known as SDF. In a post on X on Saturday, the ministry said the extension supports a U.S.-led operation to evacuate ISIS prisoners from SDF detention facilities and transfer them to Iraq. In Syria, still, the United Nations has warned that families displaced from northeastern Syria urgently need shelter and security. In a post on X on Saturday, the UN said that while support teams are on the ground, ensuring safe and sustainable access for humanitarian workers remains critical to meet the urgent needs of those affected. And in another development in Africa, Sudanese media report the discovery of mass graves in Khartoum containing the remains of victims who died in Rapid Support Forces prisons. The graves, found in central areas controlled by the forces for nearly 2 years, include 2 sites in a Riyadh neighborhood near Obeid Khatim Street, holding the bodies of thousands buried in unorganized, chaotic conditions. Meanwhile, the governor of Darfur, Mini Arkoa Minawi, said ongoing military developments suggest the city of Al-Fashir could soon be liberated. Speaking on Sunday, he stressed that Sudanese forces remain highly unified and ready, and called for unity among citizens. Minawi added that the operation isn't just military, it also aims to protect social cohesion, a key factor for lasting stability in Darfur. For his part, Sudan's Transitional Sovereignty Council Chairman Abdel Fattah al-Burhan said the state will not accept any parallel authority outside its legitimate institutions. In an article for Turkey's Al-Manaj Diplomatic on Sunday, he stressed that a ceasefire must include clear conditions: the withdrawal of armed groups, removal of heavy weapons, and an end to any separate power centers operating outside official state command. Al-Burhan reaffirmed the army's commitment to preventing moves that could push the country toward fragmentation. Moving on, lastly, in this file, Sudan, embroiled in a civil war since April 2023, is suffering not only heavy human losses, but also widespread looting of its cultural heritage. Today, in fact, many historic sites and artifacts are damaged or destroyed. Let's get more details with Yasin Rikti now.
Nearly 3 years of war in Sudan have taken so much and left big loss behind. And now it's coming for Sudan's history and cultural memory. Museums, archaeological sites and priceless collections, the very things that tell the story of who a people are being carted away or reduced to rubble, placing centuries of history at risk.
Our museum is in catastrophic condition. Many cultural relics have been looted, while others have been completely destroyed or damaged to varying degrees. The main building along the several important museum structures has been struck by rockets.
The numbers are hard to grasp. According to official figures, at least 22 national museums have been damaged or pillaged since the conflict began, while some 4,000 cultural artifacts have disappeared. Among them are rare relics that were proof of civilizations that flourished here long before our time. And with the government's collapse, there was no one left to guard them.
Many museums have been looted and vandalized, making this one of the most serious consequences of the conflict. Their destruction threatens to wipe out our culture, erase our history, and undermine the Sudanese people's understanding of their historical heritage and identity.
As fighting continues, criminal networks have taken advantage of the breakdown in security to traffic stolen artifacts, smuggling them onto international art markets. UNESCO and archaeological experts have repeatedly warned collectors and auction houses against acquiring items of unknown or dubious origin, stressing that such purchases fuel looting and cultural destruction.
We must hold those responsible for looting these relics accountable and call on the international community to take action against the theft and trafficking of these artifacts.
There was a small bit of good news this week. On Tuesday, Sudan's government announced the recovery of 570 stolen artifacts. It's a win, but a tiny one. The reality is most museums are still closed, empty, broke, and with no staff. Getting all of this back, rebuilding what's broken, that's the work of a generation, expected to take years. And as for the Sudanese, that loss hits a different way. It's not just about the object itself, it's about the memory it holds, the story it tells. When a museum is bombed, it's not just a building that collapses, it's a piece of people's identity gone.
Elsewhere in Africa, Somalia's National Security Agency, which includes intelligence and security forces, announced Sunday that several leaders of the extremist group Al-Shabaab have been neutralized. According to the agency, the operation targeted terrorist bases near Konyo Barrow, southwest of the capital, Mogadishu. Back home, Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune chaired a cabinet meeting focusing on key economic and social priorities. The meeting reviewed the launch of the Wad Amizur zinc and lead mine set to start in March 2026 and progress on the mining railway linking phosphate sites to the port of Annaba. The President of the Republic also ordered strict field follow-up on all projects, approved financial support for this year's pilgrims, and stressed faster work to boost mining, transport, fisheries, and food security. The meeting ended with the approval of senior state appointments. In other regional news, Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Affairs Ahmed Attaf arrived in Tunis on Sunday to attend the ministerial meeting of the tripartite mechanism of Libya's neighboring countries on Monday. Algeria's foreign minister said the regular meeting aims to discuss developments in the Libyan crisis and ways to support a UN-backed political settlement while fully respecting Libya's sovereignty, unity, and institutions. Moving on to other economy-related news, Algeria boosted its natural gas exports to Tunisia in the first 10 months of last year, reaching 3.53 billion cubic meters. According to a specialized energy platform, supplies through the Transmed pipeline covered the shortfall from Tunisia's decline in local production, meeting over 95% of the country's electricity sector needs. During the summer peak, flows hit a record 525 million cubic meters. And in another news story, the Sahrawi Observatory for Natural Resources and Environmental Protection condemned Morocco's ongoing attempts to include Western Sahara in EU trade and fishing agreements. In letters to EU ambassadors in Brussels, the observatory said the EU faces a test of credibility, emphasizing that self-determination is a legal right, not a political bargaining chip. It urged the EU to respect relevant European Court rulings and take a clear legal stance to guarantee the Sahrawi people's fundamental rights.
The European Union cannot credibly uphold the right to self-determination while disregarding the fundamental rights of the Sahrawi people. International and European court rulings affirm that Western Sahara is a separate territory and that any agreements involving its land or resources require Sahrawi consent. By continuing economic cooperation with Morocco that includes Western Sahara, without such consent, the EU risks legal consequences and weakens its standing as a defender of international law. A clear and firm legal position is needed to protect Sahrawi rights and end violations that undermine the integrity of international law.
And in Morocco, activists have condemned the raising of a Zionist flag near the border with Algeria, blaming the government for the shameful act. Despite being banned from holding protests at the border, several groups gathered in the eastern city of Saidia to denounce the incident. Participants called for an urgent investigation to identify and hold accountable those responsible, saying the act reflects a dangerous path imposed on the Moroccan people.
This stance on normalization does not represent the Moroccan people. They represent only the regime, which is acting against public opinion. This is not a passing issue, but a dangerous and direct political path. It is the responsibility of the nation to preserve the country's dignity.
Moving on now to another topical development, Moscow strongly rejected the deployment of Western military units on Ukrainian soil, warning they would be considered legitimate targets for Russian forces. On Sunday, Alexei Polishuk, head of the CIS country's department at Russia's foreign ministry, said the placement of foreign troops, warehouses, or other infrastructure in Ukraine would be treated as foreign interference.
The deployment of Western military unit warehouses and other infrastructure on Ukrainian territory is unacceptable and will be classified as foreign intervention. All Western military facilities deployed in Ukraine will be considered legitimate military target for the Russian armed forces.
Meanwhile, Russian authorities said energy facilities were damaged and gas, electricity, and heating lines disrupted after heavy Ukrainian shelling in Belgorod on Saturday evening. For his part, Kiev Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said on Sunday that heating remains out in around 1,700 residential buildings following a Russian missile and drone attack. Russia's defense ministry also reported striking an energy infrastructure site supporting Ukrainians' military-industrial complex. Still in Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky on Sunday called on allies to strengthen his country's air defense systems to counter Russian strikes. Speaking during a ceremony in Vilnius, Lithuania, Zelensky said Ukraine is working closely with the US and Europe to ensure stronger protection of its airspace.
This week alone, the Russians have launched over 1,700 strike drones, more than 1,318 guide bombs, and 69 missiles of various types. Each massive Russian strike could be devastating. That's why missiles are needed for air defense systems every day, and we continue to work with America and Europe to provide more protection for the sky.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Sunday that the U.S. security guarantees for his country are fully ready, adding that Kiev is now waiting for the time and place to sign the agreement.
For us, security guarantees come first. These are bilateral security guarantees from the United States. The document is 100% ready, and we are waiting for our partners to confirm the date and place when we will sign it. After that, the document will go through ratification in the US Congress and the Ukrainian Parliament in line with our agreements. These second security guarantees for Ukraine are European security guarantees, coalition of the willing, and most importantly, membership in the European Union.
Європейські гарантії безпеки, це коаліція охочих.
And in other news, Venezuela's interim president Delcy Rodriguez called on the opposition to enter talks aimed at reaching agreements in the interest of the Venezuelan people. Speaking on national television on Saturday, Rodriguez emphasized that the dialogue must be purely national, free from foreign influence.
Starting from our differences, we must come together and reach understandings. Why? For the benefit of the Venezuelan people. There can be no political or partisan divisions when it comes to peace in Venezuela. What is needed is a Venezuelan political dialogue, one that is not dictated by external orders, whether from Washington, Bogota, or Madrid, a national political dialogue that serves Venezuela's own interests.
And in the United States, tensions in Minneapolis are at a breaking point after federal immigration agents shot and killed a nurse this weekend. It's the second such death in the city this month, and it's sparking a major political clash. Here's Karim Mustafawi now.
37-year-old Alex Pretty, an ICU nurse at the VA hospital, was shot and killed by a Border Patrol agent during a protest. What exactly led to the shooting is firstly disputed. The Department of Homeland Security says Pretty approached agent with a handgun and, quote, violently resisted when they tried to disarm him, leading an agent to fire in fear for his life. But that account is being directly challenged. A witness in a court filing says Pretty was trying to help a woman who had been pepper sprayed when agents tackled him. The witness states, quote, the man did not approach the agent with a gun, he approached them with a camera. No matter the version of the story, the incident sparked anger across Minneapolis.
Alex was an ICU nurse at the VA. That's one of the toughest jobs in the world, and I'm so grateful to Alex for the care that he provided to his patients. And I'm holding his family in my heart right now, and I'm holding his coworkers in my heart.
Sad is the best way I could describe it. This, like, what's going on is sick. Trump said that they're here to get the criminals or whatever, and yet they're committing most of the crimes going around, breaking and entering, kidnapping, murder.
The reaction from Minnesota leaders was immediate and sharp. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and Governor Tim Walz have both demanded that President Trump must end those operations in the city and pull federal agents out.
Saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death.
We know that the potential to further inflame tensions is high. And to Minnesotans, there's a difference. We want calm and peace and normalcy back to our lives. They want chaos. We cannot and we will not give them what they want by meeting violence with violence. Donald Trump, I call on you once again. Remove this force from Minnesota.
President Trump fired back, accusing the Democratic mayor and governor of inciting insurrection.
Why weren't they allowed to protect ICE officers? The mayor and the governor called them off. It is stated that many of these police were not allowed to do their job, that ICE had to protect themselves. The mayor and the governor are inciting insurrection with their pompous, dangerous and arrogant rhetoric.
This death comes last weeks after another shooting by federal agent in Minneapolis. In early January, 37-year-old Renee Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent in her car. For a city already on edge, this latest killing feels like a devastating pattern.
And finally, it's time to catch up on other international news stories making headlines in the News in Brief with Sofian Kanturi.
Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said US-Russia relations are returning to normal, with expert-level talks underway on outstanding issues. He confirmed the previous undisclosed round of talks was held in Washington. US President Donald Trump announced that the United States has seized oil shipments that were abroad detained Venezuelan tankers. In remarks to the New York Post, Trump said the confiscated oil is being processed and refined at several US facilities, including refineries in Houston. A severe winter storm cut power to over 500,000 people and forced the cancellation of more than 9,600 flights across the United States. Meteorologists warn of heavy snow and freezing rain across much of the East as President Donald Trump declared federal emergencies in 10 states. Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune congratulated the national team on its strong showing at the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. President Tebboune also praised the coaching staff and fans, including the Algerian diaspora, for their support.
And with this, we reach the end of our news for tonight. To catch up on any part you missed or get the latest updates, you can always visit our social media platforms. On behalf of all 24 News team, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, do take care.